I still recall the moment my mother sent that text. We replaced every lock. You no longer belong here. Show us your courage now. Ah! No phone call, no heads up. Just those words glowing on my screen in the shadows. I paused for a beat, gazing at them, then chuckled softly, nearly serene, because that wasn't a conclusion to my life. It was the beginning. 48 hours on, their attorney contacted me with 5 words that revealed the tables had turned. Serious issue. Contact right away. Before I dive into the details, tap like and share in the comments. Has your own blood ever caught you off guard? Your experiences assure me I'm not isolated. Folks once claimed we were the ideal household on Elm Avenue. Crisp white frames, neat bushes, weekend meals filled with baked turkey and pretend harmony. If you passed by, you'd likely assume affection resided behind those panes. But flawlessness stays silent only because it's practiced. I grew up performing my role, the steady child, the mender, the one who never argued. Father Richard Liu was the sort who thought affection equaled submission. If an item failed, he'd summon me before grabbing any equipment. Kara, steady the ladder. Kara, fetch the pliers. I mastered standing on shingles before I learned to relax. My palms bore small scars from timber and cable. Yet he'd grin and declare, "You're stronger than any boy I might have raised." Mother would flash that flawless grin, the one concealing every cutting corner under courtesy and remark, "Kin never tallies obligations." They repeated it so frequently it turned into a mantra. Kin never tallies obligations. Meaning whatever you offer us is required. Whatever we seize is caring. Then came Emily, my younger sibling. 2 years behind, gentler, more attractive. She never lifted heavier than a lipstick tube. Father labeled her the fragile one and mother dubbed her our treasure. I felt pride for her once, too. I thought maintaining calm was my duty, that cleaning their chaos proved loyalty. When funds ran low, mother would exhale theatrically over the power invoice and somehow, my purse would part. At 17, I assisted with house loans. By 21, I handled fixes. It didn't seem off then. It seemed like devotion. They praised my skill with figures, my reliability, and I confused control for appreciation. Each time I mended a surface or sent a sum, I convinced myself I kept the unit intact. But there's a cost to being the adhesive you never pause gripping. I recall one holiday feast, positioned near the glass, observing mother pass Emily a tiny velvet case. Within lay a silver chain etched with her letters. For our young creator, mother announced. Emily embraced her. I grinned, acting unaware of the frost climbing my limbs. That chain likely matched 3 months of my lodging back then. But kin never tallies obligations. Correct? Years on, that saying still resonates in my mind, gentle, toxic. I can still detect the polish from the railing I coated at 16. Hear the squeak of the latch I once mended for father. View the entry bulb I swapped blinking in recall. The same entry bulb that would later illuminate an entrance I couldn't access. It began with murmurs, faint enough to seem innocent. I returned late from the office one evening, boots soggy from the Seattle drizzle, and caught my name through the cooking area panel. I ought to have continued, but a note in mother's tone halted me halfway. She doesn't grasp all her aid was optional. She murmured quietly, yet distinct. When we unload the property, it'll solely bear our signatures on the documents. My throat constricted. Unload the property. Our property. The identical spot I'd coded, mended, funded, fragment by fragment for years. Father's chuckle followed, deep and satisfied. Typical Kara. All soul, no savvy. Then, Emily's tone uncertain. But, won't she anticipate something? Mother huffed. Anticipate what? She provided presents? Presents don't purchase steak. For an
instant, i valiava ide mishiart.
The space whirled in hush, the atmosphere dense with the aroma of remaining supper and disloyalty. I clutched the surface until my joints paled. Presents, I muttered to myself, the term souring on my tongue. They were splitting my labor like loot, and I was the idiot who bankrolled their ease. I proceeded to my chamber without noise, each stride weighty, repeating the lines they'd scripted for me my whole existence. Be thankful. Be silent. be helpful. But a part of me fractured that evening. I didn't weep. I didn't challenge them. I perched on my mattress edge, the shine of my screen mirroring in my gaze, and began recalling every send, every charge, every instance they'd uttered, only this time. Time slipped by. The residence grew quiet. I could detect the drizzle on the pane and the soft buzz of the cooler, constant, unconcerned, unlike my pulse. Then, right as I prepared to shut my screen, my device vibrated. 11:27 p.m. Mother. We replaced every lock. You no longer belong here. Show us your courage now. Ah! The terms seared into me individually. I reviewed them once more, gradually. Locks. Belong. Courage. And that chuckle, haha, taunting, keen end. No ring.
No clarification.
Just that icy note shining in the gloom. I'm unsure how long I fixated. Perhaps 60 seconds. Perhaps 600. Then an odd thing occurred. I chuckled also. Gentle initially, then stronger until it bounced off the vacant surfaces, because in that instant I viewed the reality sharply for the first time. They hadn't excluded me, they'd liberated me. I powered down the device, reopened my screen again, and began entering. Not a note, not an appeal, but a register. Dates, sends, fixes, every penny, every slip, every vow. When I was small, Father used to state, if you desire something correct, handle it personally. All right, I would. By sunrise, I possessed a directory titled Evidence. And as the light edged over the shades, heating the chill atmosphere of my chamber, I made a silent vow to myself. This occasion I wasn't mending anything for them. I was unraveling everything they'd constructed on me. The dawn following that note, a switch flipped within me.
No fury. No drops.
Just a pure, strange serenity. I prepared tea, signed into the job as if unchanged, and began operating in stealth. If my kin wished to witness my courage, they'd discover it on documents. By daylight, I remained the reliable stats examiner at a central company. My colleagues had no clue that every free moment was devoted to tracking a separate sort of stats. My personal past. I retrieved aged messages, wire moves, service records, payments for siding supplies, builder estimates I'd handled briefly, food slips from the periods they'd asserted they were strapped. Every figure held a tale, and every tale aimed identically they had received and I had funded. I commenced creating what I termed the record of reality. One section for what I'd provided, one for what they'd pledged. The sums didn't merely accumulate, they shouted. 47,000 toward the loan, 23 for upgrades, 15 for crises, $85,000 of my existence. Father always boasted I was the sole one in the kin who comprehended funds. He simply never foresaw how risky that would render me once I ceased directing it toward them. When my display brimmed with rows of verification, I output everything, marked each pile, and stored them in a container beneath my workstation. I didn't intend to dash to tribunal immediately. Retribution, I resolved, should mature like vintage, not burst like flame. I consulted 3 separate counselors over the following weeks. The initial pair addressed me as if I were merely another wounded child seeking pity. The third didn't. She bent a head, gaze keen. You possess a claim, she stated. A firm one. It's not regarding the title. It's regarding stake. If you can demonstrate input and purpose, you hold position. Purpose. That term resonated. I reflected on the note again. Show us your courage now. Ah, that wasn't merely harshness. It was verification. Harmful purpose in script. From that point, every move I made was intentional. I recorded fresh moves. I stored every voice message Mother left, feigning concern. I duplicated every document twice, one on my screen, one in the digital vault. At dusk, I'd rest at my station, observing the marker flash beside the term proof. My lodging was hushed, save the whir of the warmer and the rare beep of another finance notice affirming what I already knew. I held the advantage. By the time warmth arrived, my claim was impenetrable. My counselor was prepared, the forms composed. We merely required one last spark, something that displayed purpose beyond doubt. Came precisely on cue. 2 days past the milestone of that lock-replacing note, I received a message. The header stated, "Critical Asset Disposal Alert." They were unloading the property without informing me. I grinned. At last, they delivered me precisely what I required. The day of the negotiation sensed nothing like the tempests I'd envisioned. No lightning, no turmoil, just a clear Seattle morning that carried a hint of drizzle and documents. I entered the central legal suite with a binder under my limb and a brew in my grip. My pulse didn't hasten. My hands didn't moisten. I'd already endured the harshest segment, being barred from my own residence by those who vowed they cherished me. The assistant led me to a plain meeting space. Pale surfaces, extended board, 2 carafes of liquid untouched. The buzz of overhead beams filled the quiet. I settled, positioned the binder before me, and awaited. A few moments later, the panel parted. My guardians arrived first, Mother in her typical muted tan wrap, the one she donned to services to appear modest, and Father in his iron top, chin firm, gaze blazing. Emily followed, fidgeting the band of her bag, her complexion ashen. "Kara," Mother said gently, that identical pitch she employed whenever she required aid. "You appear weary, dear." "Good day," I answered, my tone even nearly remote. Her mouth bent in a grin that failed her gaze. "You didn't need to render this so formal. We could have discussed." I angled my head. "You replaced the locks." Discussing didn't appear to be our kin's favored approach. Her grin wavered, but before she could respond, the negotiator, a mid-aged gentleman with warm gaze, arrived, trailed by both counselors. Mine offered me a comforting tilt as we claimed positions. The opening minutes were routine, courteous, the variety of politeness that prickles your skin when you grasp what lurks beneath. Then my counselor parted the binder and started arranging the records sheet after sheet of slips, moves, bills. "This binder," she declared, pushing it toward the middle of the board, "holds verification of Ms. Liu's immediate monetary inputs to the asset at 2146 Elm Avenue over a 14-year span." Father bent ahead, sneering. "That's absurd. Those were presents." She was aiding her kin. My counselor didn't waver. The sends were repeatedly marked as short-term aid with the anticipation of return. "You'll also locate messages where both you and Mrs. Liu termed those sends as borrowings. We possess proof of hiding resources as well, statements displaying you held significant reserves while seeking funds from Ms. Liu under the guise of economic strain." Mother fidgeted uneasily. Her fingers, impeccably groomed, shook as she grasped for the sheets. "This is being distorted. We never—" I broke in for the initial time. "You informed me I no longer belonged. Recall that." The space fell mute. Her mouth parted then shut. She gazed at me imploring. "That was a mix-up, Kara. We were upset." Descripted, my counselor inserted, gliding another sheet across the board. Dated and marked. 11:27 p.m. The note states, "We replaced every lock. You no longer belong. Show us your courage now." The negotiator shifted his lenses, scowling. "That note surely implies purpose." Father, complexion deepened to scarlet. "She's warping it all." That note was humor. I faced his stare uniformly. "So was your notion of kin." The negotiator attempted to restore order, but the strain had already broken. My counselor proceeded systematically, highlighting every mismatch, every untrue claim. The verification piled taller. Denser loan sends I'd managed, upgrade expenses, service charges, even the slips for the fresh locks. Then arrived the instant I'd anticipated. The rival counselor, an aged gentleman with tired gaze, cleared his windpipe and bent toward my guardians. "Mr. and Mrs. Liu," he murmured, pressing, though the space was hushed enough for all to catch, "we have a problem. You need to contact me immediately after this." The symmetry struck me like dawn after a gale. I grinned, scarcely. There it was, the phrase from my preview of existence finally unfolding in real time. Mother's poise splintered. "Kara, please?" she uttered, her tone quivering. "We're kin. Don't pursue this." I regarded her for a prolonged instant, then spoke gently. "You're correct. We are kin. That's why I offered you opportunities. Years of them. But kin isn't a blank check to seize and seize until someone shatters. Emily's gaze brimmed with drops. I didn't realize, she breathed. Yes, you did, I stated. You simply didn't wish to accept it. Father struck his hand on the board. After all we provided you, I halted him, my tone firm. After all I provided you, you didn't nurture me, you depleted me. For a pulse no one uttered. The whir of the climate unit filled the gap between us, droning like static over the ruins of our bond. My counselor eventually shattered the hush. Given the verification shown, we're seeking a 50% stake in the asset or matching payment based on present market worth. The negotiator tilted slowly. It's a fair request considering the records. Father appeared ready to erupt. Mother grasped for his limb, but he pulled back. Emily sat stiff, fixating the board. When the meeting concluded, my guardians hurried out first, murmuring to each other in alarm. Their counselor trailed, device already at ear, his tone keen. Yes, I'm aware. I informed them we have a problem. I lingered seated a moment longer, gazing at the binder before me, the silent arsenal I'd forged from disloyalty. As I rose, my counselor grinned faintly. You managed that admirably, she remarked. Figures don't deceive, I responded. People do. Beyond, the metropolis was soaked in amber glow. The road carried the scent of damp concrete and triumph. I strolled past a cafe pane, glimpsed my image, and nearly failed to identify the lady gazing back. Firm, invulnerable, liberated. I wasn't the child who complied anymore. I was the lady who mastered battling without elevating her tone. And for the initial time in years, I didn't sense diminutive.
Y sensed exact, potent.
They believed replacing the locks would conclude my tale. It merely unlocked the entrance to theirs. The tribunal's ruling arrived 6 weeks on, output neatly in monochrome, 50% stake granted to me. It wasn't fortune. It was verification. Every row, every figure, every late-hour computation finally signified. The property fetched more than they'd anticipated. After council costs and levies, my guardians departed with half of what they'd planned to retire upon. They'd erected their tomorrow on my compliance and observed it collapse under my verification. I didn't relocate back. That property was merely specters donning the form of kin. Instead, I acquired a modest condo across the district. The initial act I took was replace the locks personally. Fresh keys, fresh guidelines, fresh calm. Occasionally my device illuminates with their titles. Father's messages laden with remorse. Mother's voice notes oozing with sorrow. But I never reply. Some panels once shut remain so. On serene dawns I rest by my pain with brew and rays heating my cheeks, heeding the whir of my personal domain. No strides, no commands, no claims. Just hush, just mine. They replaced the locks to bar me. I replaced mine to prevent them from ever stepping in again. They figured they were instructing me about allegiance. What they truly instructed was how to exist without them. Liberation didn't arrive with pardon. It arrived with limits and a brand fresh set of keys. Occasionally fairness doesn't bellow. Occasionally it merely endorses documents and departs silently, and that suffices. If you've ever had to reconstruct from the debris your own kin abandoned, you're not solitary. Your calm is worth guarding, even if you must battle for it. Tap like, post your tale in the comments, and follow for more authentic accounts of silent retribution and fiercely earned independence.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you never miss a twist. Stay tuned to Reddit Tales Times for your daily dose of drama, laughs, and unbelievable stories.